Okay, great. So good morning, good afternoon, and perhaps good evening to some of you. My name is Wojciech Koprowicz. I'm the chief of the UNICEF ICT Division Digital Center of Excellence. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you to this webinar introducing Drones for Sustainable Development Goals Toolkit. The toolkit has been developed over the course of several months, and I am very happy that the UNICEF ICT Division was able to contribute to its development by sharing the associated consultancy costs. Drones as the technology has been with us for quite some time now, reaching consumer market and even ending as toys. But for UNICEF, other UN agencies, stakeholders, and different beneficiaries, drones have become a frontier technology that extends the reach of provided services, often life-saving ones. During the course of the webinar today, you will hear of such applications of the drone technology and how it delivers change, be it by delivering faster vital medical supplies, vaccines, or test samples, or by providing imagery and other information to support decision-making. The toolkit, which ultimately will become a public good, was developed as an open source resource that will assist anyone who intends to use and deploy drones to provide much needed services with learning about how to go about it, plan and implement it in a sustainable manner and in compliance and with local legislation and regulations. It is a repository of drones for public good resources, ranging from software to training courses, that was seeded with foundation content by UNICEF, ICAO, and other contributors. We also encourage others to come forward and provide their input to help the toolkit expand and grow, be it through providing SOPs and regulation documents, decision-making and how-to guides, or company information about companies working with drones. I extend a warm welcome to Edmond Noni, drone specialist with the UNICEF Office of Innovation, who was the lead in putting the toolkit together and who will be the main speaker today. Can we move to the next slide, please? So today, Edmond will share with us cases of how drones are currently used in UNICEF and will provide an overview of the toolkit. We will then follow this with the question and answer session. And finally, Edmond will conclude the webinar with closing remarks. I trust that you find the webinar very informative and useful for your work. If you have any questions, then kindly please raise this through the question and answer session. You can access it through the Q&A button at the bottom, and we will answer it during the question and answer session at the end of the session today. And without much further ado, I'm going to pass now over to Edmond to tell us all about the use of drones and the toolkit itself. Over to you, Edmond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wojciech, for the wonderful welcome statement. Thank you, colleagues, for joining the call. And thank you, everyone, also who's outside of UNICEF, colleagues from the World Bank, Africa Drone Forum, and other development and private sector actors. So as Wojciech said, my name is Edmond Noni. I am the drone specialist for the Office of Innovation and ICTD. My consultancy is a shared resource between the two divisions of UNICEF, and it's focused on working with Office of Innovation in identifying new use cases for drones and developing our existing work that we've already been doing, as well as working with ICTD in mainstreaming these drone tools that are being created into UNICEF programming operations. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this presentation is on the Drones for Sustainable Development Goals Toolkit, which is a collection of different types of tools that various actors can use in using drones in development and humanitarian response. Next slide, please. So UNICEF since 2015 has been doing various work in drones, which as of recent conventions is now called uncrewed aircraft vehicles. And we've been using drones in medical supply delivery, collecting aerial imagery, and to inform our decision makers and other stakeholders on how to respond to community challenges, and most acutely during emergencies. As well as we're now looking at using drones and specifically airships in bridging connectivity gaps as part of some of the work that we're doing with Project Giga. Next slide, please. So our key contributions to the drone ecosystem has been around creating new drone corridors. And the importance of drone corridors has been that it is a segmented airspace that provides an area where drone testing can be done, and governments can experiment with drones and experiment with drones to make decisions on how to use them on the local and national scale. The other area that we've been investing in is identifying and supporting the development of digital public goods. And I'll be going more into what a digital public good is and why this is important later in the presentation. And lastly, we've also been investing in local capacity building through the Africa Drone and Data Academy, as well as investing in several startups that we've given grant funding to. Next slide, please. So here's one example of work that we've done. In Vanuatu in 2018, we ran successful piloting of drone vaccine deliveries. So you see the picture on the left being the first baby to receive a vaccine through our drone-based delivery program. Why this is important is because the locations where we were delivering the vaccines were difficult to reach. Vanuatu being a country that is a collection of islands. So there was some health locations which were very challenging to get to using conventional methods. So within that program, we delivered vaccines to over 1,100 children in 48 different locations. Next slide, please. Another example of our work with drones has been in medical commodities delivery in Malawi. Again, since 2018, 2019, we've been working in Malawi alongside several partners, including Village Reach, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, USAID, to support and deliver vaccines and antibodies, vaccines and antibiotics for children and mothers in various locations. So in Malawi, to date, we've done over 27,000 vaccine deliveries and 95,000 deliveries of antibiotics by drone. Next slide, please. So leaning into the different use cases that we've been able to leverage drones for, we have also not just been using them in medical commodities delivery or medical supply chain, but we've also been utilizing the imagery capacity of drones in search and rescue. Now, the region, the Asia, the Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan region is an area where there can be issues with extreme weather and can be issues with people being stranded or people being in scenarios where they need immediate rescue or immediate help. Flying over these searching for someone over these very large land areas can be quite difficult. So through the work with UNICEF Kazakhstan country office, we've been able to create a Kazakhstan drone corridor. And within that drone corridor, we've been able to provide training to the emergency response agencies of 6 different countries in the region. And we hope to continue that work and continue to partner with them moving forward. This is also another great example of local agencies taking leadership after UNICEF has made the initial investment. As we made the initial investment in the Kazakhstan drone corridor, and since then, the leadership of the corridor has been taken up by the Emergency Response Agency and the Kazakhstan government, whilst we're providing support. Next slide, please. And this brings me to the very important contribution that we've been making around drone corridors. Now, why drone corridors are important is because several governments are interested in introducing drones into public airspace, but public airspace is a national asset that's very closely regulated and very closely managed. Drones being a new technology and posing certain risk, it was very important for the creation of a segmented area where the technology could be tested, where the tolerances or the risk mitigation that needs to be put in place can be assessed, and new companies who want to offer services in the field of drones can demonstrate to a government ministry or can demonstrate to a government ministry that they have the capacity to deliver safely and efficiently. So since 2018, we've established 3 drone corridors, specifically in Malawi, Kazakhstan, and Sierra Leone. We're currently discussing with several other country offices about their interest to establish drone corridors as well. So we expect that in 2022, we may see more drone corridor locations. What UNICEF is doing, however, with the drone corridor program is evolving our role from seeding these corridors financially to seeding these corridors by providing guidelines on how to set up a corridor, as well as making technical assistance available for country offices where the government wants to create a new corridor. It's a very exciting opportunity that we see to be able to take our learnings that we've gotten from the corridor and make them publicly available. Next slide, please. So as I've mentioned earlier, we've been looking at drones in different ways for different use cases and outcomes. So with each corridor, there is a different focus that enables the government as well as UNICEF to test certain use cases and certain capabilities that we want to investigate. So for the Malawi drone corridor, it's been very much focused on delivery and mapping, as well as beyond visual line of sight flights. Now, what beyond visual line of sight flights is like the name implies, flying a drone long distances where the control of the drone can no longer physically see the drone, but is controlling it from a ground control station that in some cases could be hundreds of kilometers away. BVLOS flights are important because these are the key flights that you would be doing for medical drone delivery. So the Malawi drone corridor has been a leader in testing of BVLOS capabilities in drones and testing of drones in supply chain. And that's reflected in the over 27,000 deliveries that we've done with vaccines in Malawi. and over 15 companies who have come to Malawi to do some form of testing in the corridor. Malawi is also the country that has UNICEF's first drone education program, being the Drone and Data Academy based there, which we created in partnership with Virginia Tech. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The Kazakhstan drone corridor is focused more on emergency response and search and rescue, specifically for extreme weather conditions. Now, this is very applicable, very useful for the global north and other geographies where high altitude search and rescue and high altitude mapping and imagery for decision making is important. So we've been able to work closely with the Kazakhstan government in developing and managing the corridor, as well as experimenting on imagery in these types of conditions. This is very important as various climate change issues continue to plague the world globally, and mapping and imagery for decision-making around climate issues in various weather conditions become more important. Next slide, please. The most recent drone corridor that has been established has been the Sierra Leone drone corridor, which was established in December of 2019. Since that establishment, the first medical delivery was conducted last week, Friday, on the 19th of November. And this delivery is the first of many, as moving forward from that initial successful trial, the Gates Foundation is funding a program for medical and vaccine deliveries to 250 locations in Sierra Leone. This project is also being supported by UNICEF with technical assistance, and the drone corridor has been a useful asset in doing that initial demo flight. The other area where we're testing drones in the Sierra Leone drone corridor is around flying missions for imagery to make decisions in flood and monsoon emergencies. Again, similar to the Kazakhstan situation of mapping for climate change and climate issues, this is an example of what are the acute climate issues that you map for in the global south, being monsoons, floods, maybe in other more desert countries in the global south. You'd also be mapping for crop viability and droughts. The Sierra Leone drone corridor is also an enabling piece of infrastructure for developing digital public goods, and Sierra Leone is a digital public good pathfinder country. Next slide, please. So a key area of our work is in capacity building, especially for young people and for people within the countries where the drone operations need to take place. So with drone operations, one of the major cost centers is human resource. Having the needed local capabilities to manage the flight operations, manage the delivery operations, and do that at a cost that is viable for national health systems or national emergency systems. So because drones as an asset are most useful in low resource settings, ensuring that it can be implemented at a cost per delivery that is low, which governments can afford to fund, is very important. So to contribute to this, UNICEF has developed the Africa Drone and Data Academy, and this is a collection of courses which can take a student from no drone knowledge to being fully certified in drone operations, drone mission planning, drone projects management, and even drone venture development. So from the ADDA, we are training individuals to become drone professionals. And we've already hired about 10 of those professionals. We've already hired 7 of those professionals in Malawi. And we're looking to continue training within the Africa Drone and Data Academy, as well as make the courseware open source. So anyone, anywhere in the world can take these courses online. And as the network of drone corridors increase, if they need to go and take the physical or practical side of the course, we can establish partnerships with local operators within countries that have drone corridors for them to offer the practical side of drone management, drone maintenance, drone flight, and drone piloting. Next slide, please. And the final area of our work that we've been doing is investing in digital public goods. And how we invest in digital public goods is by investing in startups. Startups that are creating products and services which are open source, which run off of open licenses and data sets. And all of the products are available for on a Creative Commons license for anyone to take, adapt, and use. This has been successful so far. Over the last 3 years, we've invested in 6 different drone companies, and we have a starting investment of $100,000. But depending on the work that the companies are doing, or depending on the request of a UNICEF country office, there are opportunities for follow-on funding for the companies or the country offices who are doing work with them. Next slide, please. One example of a company that we've invested in that we're very excited about is Cloudline. Cloudline is a company that has developed an airship, a drone airship. And this is an interesting technology for us because drone airships have very high endurance, which means they can stay airborne for a lot longer than conventional multi-rotor or fixed-wing drones. So the Cloudline airships can stay airborne for between 22 to 24 hours currently, and they're working on improved platforms to surpass even that time frame. They can also carry large payloads, currently carrying 10 to up to 50 kgs on some of their experimental units, and the ability to navigate through quite difficult weather conditions. Diwakar, can you please play the demo video? We don't have video. Sorry. So this is Cloudline's airship. It's quite a large unit. We think it's very promising for medical deliveries, as well as communications. So broadcasting of internet and phone during emergency, but even possibly becoming part of standard communications broadcasting infrastructure if a large enough network of them were deployed. So that's an example of the unit making a drop. Cloudline is based in South Africa. They've currently raised up $10 million for this to support their scaling and development of the technology. And they're in conversations with several governments globally on how to bring this technology into medical supply chain and other applications. Diwakar, I think we can switch back to the presentation. No, we have to go back. Yeah. Okay. Here we are. Thank you so much, Diwakar. So with presenting all of this, giving you this background of the work that UNICEF has been doing in drones, brings us to what the Drones for Sustainable Development Goals Toolkit is. So what we're attempting to do is take all of that work that we've done so far and make it publicly available for anybody to take and use as they wish. UNICEF will continue, UNICEF will continue to be available for collaboration. If you take any of our tools and you want to use them in a particular scenario, so if you do take any of the tools and you use them in some way, please feel free to reach out and let us know, and we'll be happy to see if and how we could support the work that you're doing with the tools that we've developed. So the toolkit is a collection of all of these investments that we've made that I've just gone through. And they're grouped into different types of projects. There are open source software, open source data sets, artificial intelligence models. We have open standard operating procedures and regulatory frameworks. We have the courseware, and we have various guides. Now, these guides are another important area that we're excited about, because it takes all the lessons that we've learned in developing drone corridors, in making decisions around how to implement humanitarian and development missions with drones, what the considerations that you need to have in place to do that successfully and safely. And other areas such as deciding when to use drones for imagery or when to use satellites for imagery, as well as when is it wise to use drones in medical supply chain and when is it not. So there are lots of guides which we think that for partners who want to create drone programs, or governments who want to create new drone initiatives, these guides can help you gain from the learnings that we've been able to accrue over the last couple of years. So one major aspect of the work that we do, all the work that UNICEF does, is open source. It's all open source because we believe that making it open source enables it to scale as quickly as possible to as many people as possible, and removes what can sometimes be a significant barrier to entry in terms of cost of these tools. And all of the tools, as I said, having the open source DNA that they have already put them on a solid foundation to become eligible for digital public good nomination. And the digital public good standard and the digital public good alliance is something that I'll go into in the coming slides. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this brings me to the toolkit itself and what the contents are. So the toolkit has two audiences that we're aiming for. One, users of the tools, and specifically the UN or other development and humanitarian agencies, governments, nonprofit, and private sector drone companies who see a tool that they think can be used to make a positive impact for communities. And we want those stakeholders to feel free to take these tools and make use of them in their programs. And the second audience that we are looking for the toolkit are people who are developing drone tools. So as Wojciech said, UNICEF, ICAO, UNICEF Innovation, ICAO, and UNICEF Supply Division in Copenhagen, we've started the toolkit with content. However, it's not a closed toolkit. It's not a toolkit that we intend only for those partners to develop and deploy tools into. It's a toolkit that is open, and we're welcoming contributions from the global drone ecosystem. So we're looking for agencies or companies who are developing open source drone solutions to join us in the work that we're doing and to contribute their projects to the toolkits. Diwakar, if you can just click the toolkit link, and then I can just go through it a little bit.
Diwakar, you need to switch to this screen to the website. Thanks.
Oh, yes. Need to switch. Thank you, Diwakar. So this is the Drone Sustainable Development Goals Toolkit. If we scroll down, we see the different sections or the different subjects of the toolkit. The first section is a description of the toolkit, the different stakeholders that are involved. Yes, please click. So here we describe our work historically in the drone sector. There's a mention of the UNICEF Venture Fund. The UNICEF Venture Fund is the arm of UNICEF that does this venture investing, which I mentioned being the $100,000 $100,000 grant for companies doing open source work in various areas, but specifically in drones in this case. If we can, yes. Thank you. So here also we go into how to make a contribution to the toolkit. We have 4 guiding principles for toolkit contributions. 1, the project must use open standards, open data, open source, and open innovation in its development, hosting, publishing, and support. 2, it must contribute to achieving at least one of the Sustainable Development Goals. 3, the project must have very clear ownership. And 4, the project must use approved open source licensing in all of its operations, but also in all of its dependencies. So you can't have a project that is open source but an underlying piece, an underlying library of code or an underlying aspect of it depends on a resource that is not open source. And of course, all of these criteria are designed to align with the Digital Public Goods Standard. Now, the projects can be submitted for consideration to be added to the Drone SDG Toolkit through the submission form. So you would fill the submission form where we ask various questions, and we'll then review your responses, and within 90 days, we'll get back to you on your eligibility, or if we have some more questions for you, we can come back to you on that and figure out how you can align your solution so it can become part of the toolkit. Can we please go back to the home? Thank you. And then the other subjects are analytics, which have a collection of artificial intelligence and data products that we've invested in. Yes, you can click, please. So we describe one of the Office of UNICEF Innovation principles, which is being data-driven. And in that regard, we've been investing in several data products and projects. Can we please scroll down? So here is a list of various projects that we've developed, that we've invested in: Bioverse Labs, drone and AI to map the Amazon ecosystem, but for tree classification. So this is a project that someone can take and repurpose or use within agriculture, or use within climate, or use within forestry management for climate change issues. Scroll down, please. So for each tool, we have the GitHub repository. So if you clicked on Use Bioverse Labs GitHub repository, can we please click? So if you click there, it'll take you to the GitHub repo of that project. Now, if there's anyone who's not sure what a GitHub repo is, it's a repository of the various code and documentation around a digital product, and those files are what's used to deploy the product. So if you took this, you can take it and you use it for your own deployment and for your own use, as well as edit the code. Edit the code if need be, hopefully in a way that improves the project. Can we go back? So that's just one example, and all the other projects there take the same format where we describe what the project is, and then we give you the link to the GitHub where you can go and make use of the asset. Can we go back to the home page, please? Then we have guides. If we can just click guides quickly. Now within the guides, we've, if we scroll down, scroll down, please. Within the guides section, we've made some technical guides for various areas available. If we click one of them, the technical guide, no, down, please. Yes, no, on technical guide for the use of drones in humanitarian development. So this gives you a document that shows you the 4 steps that UNICEF uses to assess how to design a new drone intervention for humanitarian and development missions. Can we scroll down? So any partner or any stakeholder can download this document, and you can use that in designing your own intervention. and making decisions on how you want to implement this type of project. Yeah, so if we can go back to the homepage, please. Then we have learning, which as of right now is focused on the Africa Drone and Data Academy. And we have here a link. If we scroll down, we have a link to the online courses that the Africa Drone and Data Academy use. It's on GoTo. It's on the GoTo, that's just above. No. On the sentence that's above submit learning tools. The sentence that's above submit learning tools. It's above submit learning tools. Yes. So if you click that link, you'll be taken to the course section of the Africa Drone and Data Academy, and you can sign up for one of the online courses that we have there. Can we go back to the homepage, please? We also have software, regulations. The regulations we have here are the ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization, model UAS, if we scroll down. We have the ICAO model UAS regulations, if we scroll down again. And this framework, this provides a template for governments to use to create national drone regulations and national drone laws. ICAO has put a lot of work into this, and the model UAS regulations, as well as the advisory circulars, can support governments in accelerating their movement from no drone regulations to having a robust regulatory framework. Can we go back to the homepage, please?
Edmond, I'm just also mindful of time, that we give colleagues enough. There's a couple of questions coming up.
Yes. So we're almost done. And then there's software, and this is a collection of the software that we've invested in before. If we go back to the homepage again, we finally have information on the drone startups that we've invested in. So for country offices or other development agencies who want quick access to information on startups that we put resources behind and that we've vetted, this is a good page to find out more about them and also find out how to get in contact with them. Okay, then can we go back to the presentation? Can we go to the next slide, please? So we want contributions from partners and companies. We're interested in open data sets and machine learning projects, technical and decision-making guides, open courseware, non-commercial standard operating procedures and regulatory frameworks, and also open source software and hardware. For example, the airship is an example of open source hardware. And then we've invested in several open source software, as I showed you with the Bioverse example. Can we go to the next slide, please? So as I said, the criteria: your project must use open standards. It must contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. It must have clear ownership, and it must be using approved open source licenses. Can we go to the next slide, please? How you can contribute is by going to the DPG Toolkit site, and we'll make the site and these slides available after the webinar. But you go to the site, you navigate to About Toolkit, and then you fill the form. Why we think this is important, or why it's advantageous to join us in the work that we're doing, is through our partnership with the Digital Public Goods Alliance. Any project that's within the framework can be easily scaled globally. Even for private sector companies, it is interesting because in as much as your solution will now become open source and be global and be scaled globally, there are still opportunities for resource mobilization by providing support services to your open source products, or providing support if a country office or if someone decides to hire you to support that product. So you can quickly find that your product or your projects is able to scale in several countries very rapidly. Next slide, please. So quick description of what a digital public good is. It's a set of specifications and guidelines, or it's open source software, open data, or open AI models, open standards, and any open content that adhere to privacy and other applicable best practices, do no harm, and are of high relevance for the attainment of the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Now, the Digital Public Goods Alliance is a partnership of several governments, as well as the United Nations Special Envoy to Technology. That office is also supporting the DPG Alliance, Government of Norway, UNICEF, as well as several Pathfinder countries, such as the government of Sierra Leone and others. You can visit the Digital Public Goods Alliance website for more information on DPG criteria and vetting. Next slide, please. Coming back to the drone SDG toolkit, if you have a solution that you think would be viable to be in the toolkit, but you need some financial support, UNICEF Venture Fund will be doing a new call for applications in the near future, where you can apply for a grant of up to $100,000 to develop your projects that can become part of the Drones for SDG toolkit. Next, yes, and that's the final slide.
Thanks, Edmund, for this very informative presentation. We have quite a few questions in the Q&A, so maybe let's start with the first one. I did already provide some information from your slide. This was a question about list of drone corridors currently active, but perhaps you can indicate which ones are being planned. You mentioned some of them being planned for next year. So in addition, Kazakhstan and Sierra Leone currently active, can you indicate which ones are planned further?
Sure. So the ones that are currently active are Malawi, Kazakhstan, and Sierra Leone. The countries that have expressed interest that we are talking to now are South Africa, Uruguay, and Niger. But these are conversations, and there's a lot of work that goes into creating a corridor, and hopefully we and these governments can successfully deploy one.
Okay. So we have a question from Emmanuel. It's a multi-part question. So the first part is, what are the challenges that you have encountered when the drone is sent to deliver items in a risk-prone area, for example, where it might be brought down by the military or, the illegal or unlawful, people, like bandits? How long can a drone fly? I think it varies by the model. And the third question is, what are you doing in the area of introducing this in early stage in African schools?
Mm-hmm. So question number one, we are yet to encounter challenges of kind of security risk challenges, because so far the countries that we've been operating haven't posed security risk. However, as we expand our work, it might be possible that we would be in those types of scenarios. One thing that we do in designing our drone interventions is that we take a lot of time to do research, to do consultative workshops with government and other partners. So I can't answer exactly what risk mitigation would be for that, because risk mitigation for any of those types of scenarios would be specific to the country and to the context. But what I can say is, like, if you go to the guide section of the SDG Toolkit, you'll see the process that we go through in making the decision on how to deploy for humanitarian or development interventions. So within that process and within those workflows, we design according to the scenario that we are going to be facing. Now, how long can the drone fly? As Wojciech said, it depends on the model. The current ones we're using to do beyond visual line of sight can fly up to 90 minutes. Between 90 minutes to 3 hours. And then we are about to integrate the airships into the medical supply chain in Namibia, and they'll be able to fly 22 hours. And what we're doing in terms of introducing this in early stage in African schools, we have not started that yet, but we are open to that. And if you or someone else has a curriculum that is targeted at early stage drone education, maybe K through 12, it would be something that would be interested in having as part of the drone SDG toolkit.
Okay, the next question is from Wahid, and specifically the question is, did you get any resistance or opposition from the government or security departments of the country where you wanted to create these corridors? If so, how did you address it?
So fortunately, no, we didn't get any resistance. In fact, the governments were extremely supportive, extremely supportive. The success of the drone corridors we have so far, really, we can say that our government partners have been a significant contributor to the programs working. Okay,
I think it depends also on a specific context. So I think, most probably before embarking or looking at the program, one should consider, what are the local, conditions, and then obviously maybe start by conversation with the local Civil Aviation Authority to find out some of the restrictions and, applicable restrictions, right? So that would be perhaps suggested answer.
True.
Then
One more
go ahead,
addition to that question. Typically, how we start doing work in a country is the UNICEF country office will assess the government, like will assess the scenario, and the UNICEF country office will come to Office of Innovation and ICTD and say, hey, we want to do this type of projects. By that time, country office has usually already spoken to government. They are based in the country, so they know if it's something that is going to work or not.
Okay. We have several questions from Tapelo. First one is regarding the training or the courses. Are they self-paced or scheduled? And typically, how long does it take to complete one? So that's the first question. Second question he's or she is asking is that, about being a software development students and how could diving into this material be beneficial to somebody who is the software development student, and also whether the startups need to use the open source tools, and how do the drones perform in the rain? So 4 questions.
Okay, so the courses are self-paced, especially the ones that are online. There are some courses that still need to happen in person, and those are where there needs to be physical training of how to fix or maintenance a drone, and also how to fly a drone physically. The typical amount of time it takes to complete all of the courses that we offer is 3 months if you're doing it intensively, but as it's self-paced, you can also take however long you want to take. Now, being a software development student, how can I dive? It will be beneficial in that if you're interested in drones, you can very quickly learn from some of the best companies, best startups in the world who have already developed high-level solutions. This can help you to develop your specific solution or develop your skills in the discipline. The other question, do startups need to use open source tools? If you're going to be part of the open source part of the SDG Toolkit, yes. But of course, UNICEF can't tell you what to do and what not to do. I mean, if you have a startup, you have a startup. But for UNICEF's work and for working with us, yes, it has to be open source. How do drones perform in the rain? It depends again on the drone. It depends on the weather rating. It depends on the kind of wind profile that the drone is operating within. And there is an upper limit to any drone's ability to perform in difficult weather. And the kind of general consensus is if you have extremely harsh weather, don't fly. Besides drone corridors, any plans pending in South Africa? South Africa country office is looking at many different scenarios and opportunities to use drones. But since those conversations are very early, I don't think it's the right time to disclose everything. Is there a plan to have a drone corridor in Nigeria? Again, as I said, with the process that we have being that the UNICEF country office needs to initiate the work, the UNICEF Nigeria country office would need to assess whether they want to work with the government to create a drone corridor. And when they come to that conclusion, then we would be there to support. What sort of work goes into the establishment of a drone corridor? Collaboration or kind of coordination with different stakeholders, being government, National Civil Aviation Authority, the landowner or the kind of the land area where the drone corridor is going to be placed, local sensitization and education, as well as involvement of any local drone ecosystem that's available. And kind of working with a subset of about 5 different partners to move from initial conversation to regulations and maybe even laws that need to be in place to support the drone corridor and move forward from there. Are there any drones with swappable batteries? I believe that almost all drones have swappable batteries. For information, announcement from ICAO appears that.
I think this is a question that to get the ICAO in a sort of kit, right? You actually need to pay. That's how I understand the question. You need to pay about $29,000. So it indicates that it's not free.
Well, the model part 101 and 102 is a free resource that was used in Sierra Leone in redeveloping the Sierra Leone national regulations. They may very well have a paid version of that resource, or more specifically, a paid version for facilitation and support of ministries of transport and civil aviation. But the work that we did, they provided the resource for free, and it's available online for download. And then with the government of Sierra Leone, we took that open source kind of free Word document, and we reworked that to reflect the laws in Sierra Leone. So okay. The ICAO UAS model regulations of this. So the ICAO, it's the UAS model regulations that we're referring to.
But I think that the comment was that the kit itself and the link that was provided for the kit on establishing a regulatory framework, right? That actually is available at the price. So I guess this is where the comment is coming from. Sort of, and it has. I mean, my take on it is I think it's because it provides training as well. I mean, the components.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't think that we have any further questions. So maybe we just couple of minutes over time. So maybe Edmund, if we have just some final comments from you, concluding remarks, very brief ones, and then we can close the webinar.
Sure. I'll just like to say thank you to everyone for joining, and a special thank you for David Guering for taking the time. I know you have a very busy schedule, and you've also done a lot of you're also doing a lot of great work in drones as well. So it's very exciting to have you on the call. Also, thanks Justin, Flory, and Ida for joining the call. Justin and Ida are my colleagues from UNICEF, and we worked together in developing the DPG Toolkit website. They did a lot of heavy lifting in that regard. And also thanks Wojciech for your continued support at ICTD, and Diwakar for coming in to work on the event. We're very excited with what we can do with the SDG Toolkit, and we're even more excited with what other people can do and what other people can contribute. So, for especially young people who, like the software developer who joined the call, please go through the toolkit. Please think of what you can do and what tools that you can create. We're here to support and we're here to advise. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach out. And anyone else who is already working in the sector or interested in working in the sector, we encourage you to do so. We hope to continue to be a resource, both technically and financially, for expanding this work, and we're excited to hear from you as we move forward. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Edmund, and thank you for participating. We do also, I can see participants from other UNICEF offices, from Bangladesh, from Nepal, from regional office here. Also, I think I can see a colleague from the Drone Academy as well. So thank you very much. We hope that you found this very useful. As Edmund has said, the recording as well as the presentation will be shared with colleagues who have registered for this event. So you'll be able to also have a look at it again. So thank you very much once again, and hopefully you'll be able to apply what was shared with you in your future work. Thank you. Bye.